Welcome to the Empowered Mom Hour, where we go deep into everything you need to know about planning and getting your empowered, true natural birth with my Empowered Birth Circle and Empowered Mom Circle. And today's special guest is Tracy Astle. She is back with Nourishing Body and Soul, but this time she's not going to teach about postpartum weight loss. This time she is going to share her birth story. So if you haven't seen the video I already did with Tracy, make sure you go check that out, where she goes deep into everything you really need to know about postpartum weight loss and feeling good in your body during pregnancy. Because, there's no such thing as getting your body back. You always had your body. And it's time that we get out of this diet culture funhouse. But during the interview that we did, Tracy mentioned her own empowered birth experience and how it transformed the way she viewed her body and what she was capable of. So, Tracy, welcome back. I'm so happy to have you and really happy that we get to talk about home birth and
Yeah.
empowered birth at that, because it's just one of my favorite subjects is the empowerment that comes from those transformative births.
Mhm.
And the first question I want to ask you is, when you were a first time mom,
Mhm.
what was your experience within your pregnancy and what did you want for your birth?
Well, first time I have four children, and the first time around, I was really, I've always just been kind of a good girl and a rule follower, and not didn't really make too many waves, and so I just kind of assumed that I'd be going the route of, just having a hospital birth, and probably an epidural, whatever, ultrasounds along the way, all that, just a typical thing. And fortunately for me, I had my husband is at the time he was a mechanic. He's a man who can fix and build anything. And I had a friend who needed some work done on her car, and she said, "Can I trade you for some birthing lessons?" And she was a Bradley coach. And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And so we were introduced to the Bradley method, which is obviously much more natural. And it's like that's kind of what started it. And then it's like, all right, so yeah, still going, didn't even question about going to the hospital. But was more like, no, I want to have the home style room, and I want to, so I had somewhat kind of idea, things that I never even would have thought to ask for had that that work trade not happened. And then, so had him, it was a very, I was not going to be one of these first time moms who was sent home from the hospital. And so I waited until the last minute to go to the hospital, and resulting that by the first time they examined me, I was already dilated to 9. And so I did not labor in the hospital so much. But also and it's like, well, we don't have time to get to the homes. Well, here, home style room, whatever. And so it's just all very kind of rushed and ultimately I think that was a good thing, but it kind of left me like, okay, okay, feeling like I was kind of trying to catch up because they moved me to the home style room so late in the process, and everything went well with the birth and all that kind of thing. And then my second son, just 2 years later, and I had friends who were ultimately, they weren't at the time, but one of them went on to become a midwife. But they were very much about natural birth and home birth and all of that. And I thought, I live in a place where home birth wasn't legal, and so I'm like, okay, well, good, nice for you. But they're very good friends of mine, so we would talk a lot about this. We were all in our childbearing years, and then my second son comes along, and I tell you, it was like he was textbook. If you read the books and say, this is what you can expect from labor, it was like that all the way, just boop, 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 boop. And so then, we go to the hospital, and the home style room wasn't available. So I just ended up being in a regular delivery room, and everything was good. There was some concern about the blood type matching. And so they took him away pretty quickly, didn't know why and didn't know what was going on. And that I kind of went, hey, wait a minute, talk to me, let me know what's happening here. But then after that birth, it was like, that just didn't, what it felt like was like I had given birth in a stainless steel sink. And it's like, that's not really the feeling I want. And that, with the input of my friends who are very into natural birth and home birth and all of that, I was like, you know what? I have two pregnancies and two births under my belt now, and it's pretty clear that my pregnancies are not high risk. My birth experiences, I labor and deliver very well. Um, and so by the time I had my third child a few years later, I connected with a midwife of the one friend. And just the perspectives were so different with that midwife. And one of the things I think that spurred this conversation today was I had talked about how when she really helped me to see, among many other things, she said, when you are in labor, instead of viewing your contractions, instead of focusing on the pain, kind of step away from that and like observe it. And in my business, that when I work with people, I'm very much about, don't come from this, not from a place of judgment, from a place like, put on your scientist lab coat. You're just gathering information. Just gather information, and don't sit here and judge why you are or aren't doing whatever. But in the birth area, it's like, instead of just focusing on the pain, people call them labor pains, but it's, think of them more as contractions, and then actually like examine what your body's doing. Are you feeling a pulling sensation? Are you feeling a stretching sensation? What are you feeling? Are you feeling a pressure? What are you feeling? And observe your body. And man, that made such a difference, because doing that, I was able to not just focus on, oh my gosh, I can't believe how much this hurts. I just want this over with. Or, as the common societal, but give me that epidural. I don't want this pain. We are, as people, programmed to avoid pain. We don't seek pain. And so if we're viewing labor as pain, then we want to remove ourselves from it. And it really is, after going through, no, I haven't had any kind of drugs with any of my four births, even the ones that were in the hospital. Yeah, but going through that, and then especially working with the midwife for my last two births, and really allowing my body to progress in what it needed to do. My third son was born in 3 hours. Some people like, yeah, it's like, oh wow, great to have that short of a labor. It's like, not so much. I felt like I didn't have the time to mentally. It's like, I've watched movies that are longer than this, you know. But at this, and he was my largest baby. But with her, it's like, okay, well, let's try this, let's try that. And she had a birthing chair. And so he was born in a birthing chair. And even though he was my shortest, most intense labor and my largest child, it was my easiest birth. I mean, it was one of those like, okay, how many more times do I need to push? And she's like, no, the head's out already. I'm like, what? And because I was able to just, as much as, relax mentally, and as much as I could relax physically, and let my body do its thing. Oh my gosh, that's when I really went, it is nothing short of miraculous what a woman's body can do. This is a miracle. And it happens over and over and over again. How many billions of people are there on this world now? And how many billions have there been in the past? It's happened a time or two, but that doesn't make it any less miraculous. It's just, when, I mean, there are complications that come up, and some people do need interventions, but when a body is left to do what it's meant to do, oh man, it's just, not only is it awe-inspiring, but the power that I felt as a woman and as a human being, it was like, I could not believe that I could do something like that. And really, it wasn't like, it's my intention, I'm going to make this happen, because we're also trained that way. It's like, if you set a goal and you make all the markers and you achieve that goal, and then when you approach it that way, it's like, you can go, okay, well, look what I did. And approaching birth like this and looking at it as this, and just being an observer, even of our own pregnancy and of our own birth experiences, just being an observer of that, it's like, oh my gosh, it's not look at what I did. Oh, I did such a great job in that birth. It's just, I, it's astounding to me that my body can do this. And when we can see our bodies that way, what that does to us mentally and emotionally, and spiritually, you we tend to isolate because especially in Western culture, that which is what I'm familiar with, the medical system compartmentalizes things. We don't deal with the whole, not just the whole body, but the body and the spirit and the mind and the emotion. We don't deal with that as one entity. We deal with it as, here's a heart specialist. Here's a person who just does bones. Here's a person who just does feet. Here's a person who just does eyes. That's it. We're very geared to this specialty that segments the body. And so this birth experience was especially powerful, this one, because like it was everything altogether. It was everything. It was such literally holistic experience. It was the first time I had felt, I've always been a spiritual person with a spiritual focus, but it was the first time I really felt so strongly that connection between my body and my spirit and myself as a whole person. And then with my daughter, who was my last one, it was a longer labor, thankfully, but also very different. I had back labor with her that I'd never had before, but because of being able to go into that observation mode, I was like, okay, this is not pleasant. I don't like this. I don't recognize this, but to be able to recognize it was a different experience. And I had, and highly recommend, I had a massage therapist with me during labor. That's a game changer. But I was able to tell her, okay, this is what I need you to do. And she's like, okay, you're going to be sore tomorrow because I'm going really hard. I said, go as hard as you possibly can. And really to be able to be in tune with my body, to know what it needed. And it was after that birth, I felt the most complete I have ever felt as a person, as a woman, especially. Man, I grew up feeling like Carly, you relate to that, like men had all the power. This is a man's world and men have the power. And wishing so many times when I was a kid, like, man, if I could just be a boy, then I could do this and I could do that. And seeing all of that. But this, after my daughter was born, was the first time where I really went, I would not trade being a woman for anything. Because this is a gift that we have that is that it's a gift for women, and it's a gift that women can give, and only women can do this. And it literally is the life of the world, the future of the entire world. And we can have all the self-esteem issues we want to have. We can have whatever mental holdups we have, but we still have the future of the world in our hands. And that's a trust that is, I mean, even if we don't trust ourselves, we can look at that and go, okay, well, somebody else trusts me. And that really can help change our view of ourselves, and to just realize that what power there is in that. And that viewing myself as a whole person. There are so many things I learned from this midwife, well, for example, this is going to sound terrible, and it sounds terrible to me now. But when I was a kid, one of the things that my mother would make for me every so often is a peanut butter and brown sugar sandwich. Literally, peanut butter, brown sugar, peanut butter, bread. I know. But it
Oh
was,
my goodness.
I know, but it's like, oh my goodness. Well, she did what she knew how to do, and that was one of the things she knew. And it was a different world nutritionally back then. But anyway, I hadn't had a peanut butter and brown sugar sandwich in forever. So while I'm pregnant, this one morning, it's like, oh my gosh, that's what I want right now. So I made myself a peanut butter and brown sugar sandwich. So I go to my appointment with my midwife. She does a blood draw and she's like, we maybe need to be talking about gestational diabetes. Your blood sugar is high. And I went, oh, well, I can tell you why. So I told her what I'd eaten. And with her, she's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And let it go. And okay, it's like, next time we'll check your blood sugar. We'll see if that becomes, if it's still elevated, then we'll talk about it. And I think about how differently that would have gone, not in with every single medical professional, professional, but with many medical professionals would have been like, oh, your blood sugar is elevated. That means you have gestational diabetes, and this is what we need to do. And it would have set this whole protocol into place, and into motion that would have ended up with so much more intervention instead of just the common sense. Well, basically, if you're going to have sugar for breakfast, then your blood sugar is going to be elevated when I do the blood draw. Don't do that. It's like, no, I have no intention of doing that again. Can't tell you last time I had one of these, and I don't know that I'll have one again, but here we are today. And looking at something in just its context, in it, and allowing that to just be, instead of viewing it as, okay, immediately now that's a trigger, and treating this whole thing like birth like a medical process. It's
Yeah.
just, yeah. So anyway, so those are some of the highlights.
You kind of hit the nail on the head with the context, Tracy, because, a lot of the times we get pigeonholed into this idea that, okay, I'm a certain weight, so I'm going to automatically have gestational diabetes, or my blood sugar's high, so I'm automatically going to have it. I have to have this test because if I don't have this test, then what if I have this thing? And for me personally, I didn't do the gestational diabetes test because I recognized that the thing that they wanted me to do was drink that pure sugar drink.
Yeah.
And I don't really eat a lot of sugar. I mean, I'll eat carbs and I'll eat like fruit and stuff, but the idea of having that concentrated sugar in my system, I was like, one of two things is going to happen. One, they're going to say that my blood sugar has spiked and I have gestational diabetes, when really it's that my body is not used to that much sugar and is like, what the hell are you doing to me? Or two, I'm going to throw it all up and then I'm going to have to choke that stuff right back down again. It's not happening.
Mm-hmm.
So when we look at context, like there's just so much there, even in terms of how your births played out. I mean, you said more about how it was a really, really fast birth, which you weren't prepared for, and also it was your easiest birth compared to your daughter, where, I mean, I've had back labor. Back labor sucks. So I'm a little envious that you got a masseuse because I did not have that. And just the context is like, this is different. I hate this. And at the same time, what's going on here? So can you tell me a little bit more about what you mean by when you said it was really easy with your son? Because I mean, fast precipitous labor, but big baby is something that scares a lot of moms, like terrifies them, especially right now, because we're in induction season. Everybody's inducing for suspected big baby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that was really interesting because I just, I woke up, it was like, 6 a.m, and I woke up and again, by this time it was my fourth pregnancy, but my third child. And it's like, all right, I know what's going on here. And so I woke up my husband and I called the midwife immediately and, got all the things ready, got the sheets on the bed that need to be on the bed and all that kind of thing. And it was like, okay, I don't think I slept through any of this because I have, labor has awakened me before, but this is going hard and fast. And instead, because of the mindset training, it's birth obviously is such a physical thing, but the mindset is what we can do ahead of time that will prepare us. I feel like that prepares us the best for what we want, or just to handle whatever may come up. That mindset. When things started progressing so quickly and it was so intense, so fast, instead of panicking, oh my gosh, what if the midwife doesn't get here? Or if I were planning a hospital birth, it would have been like, I don't think I can make it. I don't think I'm going to make, and then I'm going to have to get into the car thinking I'm going to have this baby in the car. I don't want to do that. And going into that panic mode that sends into motion, that just this contraction, this physical and mental and emotional and spiritual contraction. Instead of going there, because of working with her, I was able to go, okay, no, just observe. And I, telling myself that a lot and just when I was breathing, it's like, okay, just what is happening right now? And I was able to step outside of myself and to just go, okay, I've been through this twice before. I know my body knows what it's doing, and let it do its thing. And I had to say that to myself many, many times in that 3 hours. So obviously she got there, she set up the birthing chair. And this is another thing that, and this is not exclusive to midwives, because I know I have had the pleasure of having some really excellent medical personnel in other areas of my life. But she was very, okay, here's an option for you. Here's an option for you. Here's an option for you. What sounds good to you right now? Do you want to be on your side? Do you want to be in your bed? Do you want to move to the chair? And we'd have the discussion before during the pregnancy. Again, this is kind of part of the, the mental preparation. She's like, okay, these are the options. I do have a birthing chair. These are some of the advantages of a birthing chair. Do you want to try this? Are you interested in this at all? And, and if I would have said, no, I don't know, she would have said, okay, and let that go. But I did tell her ahead of time that, yeah, go ahead and bring that and we'll see. But even then during that labor, that very intense labor, she's like, okay, do you want to try to move to the chair? Because obviously, when you're in transition, moving is not really an easy thing to do. So like,
No, it sucks.
do you want to try to move into the chair, or do you want to stay where you are? And having that kind of respect for me and for the process was it just really taught me a lot about not just birthing and respecting the labor process and the delivery process, but it taught me about taking outside of that. And after we had talked last time, we continued talking after the camera turned off. And one of the things I brought up then, my youngest child is 30 years old now. And so it's been a few years since I've been in labor. But the further away I get from it, the more I see that how we have, I mean, we can take our labor and birthing experiences, and it's about so much more than that. There are so many life lessons to be learned that we can take literally through the rest of our lives. And so working with that midwife at that birth, it really just helped me to gain this whole new kind of respect for the processes in that situation of the body, and not trying to manipulate them, and not trying to fight against them, and not trying to make them fit into some mold that I think it should fit into, but just to go, okay, what is my body doing and what does it need to be doing? And let me observe this and let it do its thing. And because of that, being able to just, in essence, mentally relax into the experience, it was it was a 3-hour labor, and out he came without me even realizing that he was here already. And it was like, oh, heads out, she's got shoulders and the rest of it, and that's a piece of cake, um and then too, because the miscarriage that I had had before him was a girl, I just assumed, again, I never had any ultrasounds with any of my pregnancies. I assumed that I was having a girl. So when he came out and he was a boy, there was also that, oh, I wasn't expecting you. I was expecting your sister, And so there's that kind of jarring thing, as an unexpected thing, which I was fine with. I loved being a boy mom, but it still was like just this unexpected thing. And instead of having that throw me in some weird direction, it was like, oh, okay, this is the experience. And to be able to take the time in the moment to just go, okay, let me just be with this experience. Let me not try to impose any expectations. Let me not try to fight against what's happening. Let me just be in this experience. And that just made all the difference. And that's one of the great life lessons as well, because so much of our pain in life comes from unmet expectations, that if we can learn to, okay, I would like for something to go this way, Or, I know this person, I can pretty much guarantee that they're going to respond or that they're going to act this way, whether it's a way that we appreciate or don't appreciate. But not letting that, what we think is going to happen, become such an expectation that, well, using human behavior, if we have somebody who normally we've got this friend who's a wonderful friend and they're usually so upbeat and supportive, and we expect that from them, then we can be disappointed or hurt if we have some piece of really good news and we know that they're a great person to share it with, and we go to share it with them and they don't go, oh, it's awesome, it's so good. If they go, oh, I'm so happy for you, because maybe they're going through something that they're not feeling upbeat and supportive and bubbly. But so now our feelings are hurt because they didn't respond the way that we thought they would. It's that our expectation that caused our disappointment. It's not their behavior, it's our expectation. And on the opposite side of that, if we have somebody who has let us down so much in the past or caused us so much grief, then our expectations are that they are going to let us down and they are going to cause us grief. And so with that expectation, we create that feeling again. And we're looking for them to let us down. And you know what? Whatever we look for, we'll find. Whatever we look for, we'll find. And so so it's the same kind of thing. If we go into labor thinking, this is going to be so hard, it's going to be so terrible. And if you watch the movies, you're just going to be screaming your head off at your spouse or your partner, if they're even there with you, and you're just going to turn into some raving lunatic version of yourself. That's the expectation. Then if that's what we're looking for, we're probably going to find it. But if we can let go of that stuff and just go, I'm going to go in, knowing that these are the possibilities of what may or may not happen. But then just let it be what it is. That is such a gift. And a life skill to develop, that we have this really intense opportunity to be trained in that when we're in labor and delivery.
Yes. I mean, my births were so different with my two. With Hunter, it was like, oh, like I had a little bit of prodromal labor for a few days. And then the next week, it was like, okay, he's coming. And it was just continuous. With Michaela, it was like, she's almost like a black cat. Are you coming in? Maybe I'll come in. Maybe I'll just linger in the doorway. Maybe, no, I think I'm going to bolt out. But oh, don't you dare shut that door because I'm going to scratch at it again. Like that's her energy.
Mm-hmm.
And like she's carried that on, like she's 8 now. So you can just imagine, like, I'm looking forward to 30 because then she can just keep flip-flopping and it won't matter anymore. She doesn't make up her mind, but I'm sitting there and I'm like, are you coming? No? Okay, that's fine, fine. I'm just gonna let it be. And that experience is very much like, okay, this is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also had the part where when labor really ramped up, it was 5 hours, and the 3 hours were the most intense. And then like the really intense part I thought was like, oh, labor's finally kicked in. And then 10 minutes later, she was out. And I wasn't expecting that. And the midwife almost didn't get there. So it's that thought, like what you were saying. It's like you could freak out and be like, well, what if the midwife doesn't get there on time? What am I going to do? And that could be really scary. Whereas you'd prepared for that. You'd mentally prepared. And it's like, okay, this is what it is. And it's going to be fine. Whereas if you had freaked out, it would have hurt a lot more, especially with like going at that force. And he's just like, I'm coming. And you can either accept this, mom, or not, but I'm coming. And now I'm curious, how did that inform your parenting moving forward? Because you now had 3 kids, going to be 4. And I'm pretty sure they were close enough in age that it was like you had a toddler and preschooler and dealing with all that with your 4th. Mm-hmm. So how did that experience of learning how to tune into yourself and be able to accept what is How was that with your actual parenting journey? Because now your kids are all grown up. You've made it
Mhm.
to the other side.
Mhm.
And I'm really curious how you survive teenagers.
Well, a couple of things about teenagers. First of all, um, I don't know that it's universal, but in my experience, and it sounds like in your experience, and many moms I know, the birth experience really is a good indicator of that child's personality.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, okay. So kind of, that's a maybe something to go, okay, well, that's how that child, so maybe that's what I'm dealing with. Um, but then the also I found that when a child is like 2 to 3 in that toddler years, that's I learned this early on because I had a friend whose kids were 10 years older than mine. And so when I had a 2 year old, she had a 12-year old and it was heading into teen years. And as my actually he was one, but anyway, her kids were like 10, 11 years older. And so I was seeing this and it's like the things I was seeing her dealing with teenagers was like so similar to what I was dealing with toddlers. And I think that's such a dynamic time. I think that's where the similarity is, when a toddler goes from being dependent on an adult all the time to being moved from place to place, to be fed and all that stuff. And now suddenly they're finding their voice and they're able to, somebody has to provide the food for them, but they feed themselves. And now they're walking around. Those are major transitions in a person's life. And so obviously it can feel unsteady, and so I think that that's where a lot of and feeling all these emotions that they don't know how to deal with, and they have things that they want to communicate, but they don't have the skills to communicate, and that kind of frustration. And so we see these kind of behaviors in, 2 and 3 year olds where it's like, oh my gosh, child, you are just out of control. Um, and that's very similar to teenagers as well, because they're going through a point where they've been feeding themselves for a while, but they're going from being dependent on their parents for so many things. They're trying to break away to really figure out who they are, not just within the family and not just in relation to their parents, but they're trying to figure out what's their own identity. For many of them, they're starting to drive. Some of them are starting to work and earn their own money. These are major changes that really are going to set a person off balance. Aside from the fact that in teenagers and puberty, you got all the hormonal stuff going on and your body's changing like crazy. And those just, ugh. But being able to kind of go, okay, going back to the birthing and the just letting it be what it is, and and again, with parenting, a lot of our pain and a lot of our struggle comes from expectations. And I'm not saying we shouldn't have expectations of our kids. Obviously, we need to have a family environment that works for everybody, but we cause ourselves way too much grief when we think this is how it needs to be, and not taking the time to listen, because, teenagers really they have some ideas. It's like, yeah, you think that would work, but you don't understand because you're not an adult. But they also have some really good ideas, really valid ways of viewing things and thinking about things. And if we can step back from our expectation of, I am the parent, it is my job to teach you and lead you, to, we are in this together. We're not best friends. That's not the situation. You go somewhere else for a friend. I am your parent, but also not I am your parent, and therefore it's just, being able to accept the situation and step back and go, oh, even when that child looks you in the face and says, I hate you, being able to go, okay, no, they don't hate me. They think they do in this moment because I'm saying no to whatever they want, or, telling them that they need to clean their room and be responsible for whatever they should be responsible for, but not taking things personally. And it's the same thing, going back to tying that into the labor and delivery experience. Um, we don't think when we're having especially hard contractions, I mean, we may say, oh my gosh, this child's going to kill me. But we don't actually think the child's trying to kill us, But when they're teenagers and they're talking to us in these ways and they're lashing out in these ways, we can take that personally. And if we can just go, okay, no, in essence, being a teenager and going through that is really kind of another birth process. They're being birthed into adulthood. And are we going to fight against that? Or are we going to take a breath and be observational and be able to decide what the best thing in the moment is for them and for us and what's going to work? So it's a ride.
You survived, and you
Yeah.
have like your youth still, and you've got all your brain faculties. So I think I've got this handled. I mean, it is a ride. I'm noticing it even with my 8-year-old is
Mhm.
like kids just have this, just like babies, just like our pregnancies are different, and just like our births are different. Like you think, oh, I had one baby, so the other one's going to be exactly the same. No, no. Miss Michaela proved that wrong. And
Mhm.
then I thought, oh, I'm going to have the same little tiny baby that I had with my son, where it's like this baby is just going to be content and she's just going to want to cuddle. No, 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 no. Once Miss Michaela started to get mobile, she would not just snuggle at the breast. No, she wanted to do acrobatics on top of my head as she was breastfeeding. And it wasn't the same as when I was weaning my son because I was pregnant. It was more like, get off. I'm done. Get off. Like your brother, I was very gentle and I'm like, I'm sorry, buddy. I have to stop because I'm nauseous because your sister, like, it's not working anymore. The pregnancy's not working with breastfeeding, and you're 2.5 almost. Like, you'll be fine. But with her, it was child,
We're
get
done
off.
here.
We're done. Same with potty training. He was the fast one, and they used to say boys take forever and girls are fast. Uh-uh. Not Miss Michaela. That is not how it went with her.
Mhm.
Same thing with like just school transitions. She's got this interesting way with reading. And actually, right after this, I have a meeting with her teacher, and it's just all these nuances. So I love that you've tied this into birth,
Mhm.
because now when my kids are driving me crazy, I'm just be like, Tracy, can you remind me again that I'm dealing with a 2-year-old in a teenager's body?
Yeah.
Like, can you
I mean,
remind me of that?
it's really a beautiful time. I mean, I actually, I love teenagers and I've loved working with my own teenagers and like at church and in the community. I love teenagers. Um, a lot of them are not easy, but if we don't expect them to be, then we're not going to have that expectation that we're ramming up against and causing ourselves frustration and pain. Um, but just letting things be. I mean, like with Michaela and her situation, where if you were busily trying to make her, well, you expected this is how my children are, and she's not fitting that mold, then forever you're going to have this conflict that's going to damage
Mhm.
that relationship. Instead of just going, oh, this is her personality and this is how she is. And so how can like with me and my makeup, how can we best work together? Because what a gift. I mean, I have my child who's most difficult for me to raise. I have learned just so much from him. And I'm a different person in many, many good ways because of him and because of what I've gone through with him, because of the challenges with him. And so instead of going, well, he was just the hard one and whatever, he's the hard kid and let him wear that and be the black sheep and whatever. Instead of that, it's like, nah, he was a real gift, and being able to appreciate that, even with its difficulties that it brought. And this is a kid who has taken me way beyond any edge that I thought I could ever approach. But it's just, that approaching it with, labor and delivery and parenting to check our expectations and to
So
allow.
yeah. So he really took you to the edge in
Mhm,
your labor and your
mhm,
birth,
mhm,
and he's taken you to this edge
mhm,
through your entire parenting journey with him. Of course, now he's an adult, so you've
mhm.
survived. It's his turn to have
Yeah.
kids. You can
Yep. And
sit
he
back
does.
and watch
Three
that.
boys.
Oh, there you go. There you go. So you've already got your
Yeah.
grandkids. Perfect.
Yeah.
So, but looking at that, how has that informed your career? Because now you've got nourishing body and soul.
Mm.
You've done it. You've created this life for yourself. And a lot of empowered moms, they think in the beginning when they're in the trenches with their kids, it's like, I'm never going to be able to do a business. I'm going to be too old, too tired. These kids are going to kill me. Like by the time I get through parenting them 18 years down the line, like I'm going to be dead. I mean,
Or wish I
sometimes there's
was.
days where I feel like that, but I
Yeah.
know that it's not true because you're doing it, you're
Yeah.
thriving. So, what lessons did you take from your parenting and your birthing journey that you have now applied in this new phase of your life?
That
Because
was,
when you're an empowered mom for when you're empowered mom for life. So we're
mm,
looking at the whole life
yes.
holistic approach here.
Yes.
We're not just focused on get the baby out and
Hmm.
get through childhood and get through like adolescence here. Like
Hmm.
you're going to be living for until you die. So
Yes.
you're an empowered mom for life. I want to
Hmm.
get that pretty clear to you, empowered mom. So
Yes.
this is the map here. Tracy's got it. She's going to show you what's next in this
That's such a good
amazing
question.
empowered mom journey.
Yeah, and that's such a good question because it really is a journey. It's a journey. And when I look back at the things that I learned from my various birth experiences and my two miscarriages that I had, and then I look back at raising my children, um, so much of what I've learned has brought me to the point where I am now with my business, knowing that I mean, if I ever questioned my capability to do something, to start a business, to build this business, I can just look back and go, I had four children. And just the physical, mental, and emotional and spiritual part of the going through pregnancy and birth, it's like, oh, I can do hard things. I can do this. When I look back at my parenting, it's like, oh, I can go well beyond what I think. Because I mean, Carly, building a business is not for sissies. Um, and I can look back and I can go, I've done hard things before. I know what it feels like to be at this edge because I've been here before. And what did I do then that got me through? And what can I do now? And then with me in the particular coaching that I do around healing our relationship with food and our body, so much of that is rooted in self-judgment that is engendered and fostered by the diet culture that we live in. And to helping women to see themselves through an eye of observation of themselves and of their surroundings instead of through judgment. That I learned a lot of that with, as in parenting and in laboring and delivering, taking that observational view and being able to make a decision instead of just react to a situation. And that has not just helped me in building my business, but also in coaching women to be able to do that as well, to be able to thoughtfully create a life that nourishes them body and soul. Because so much as women, we're taught to give, 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 and we get burnt out and we overextend and we try to be all things to all people. And it's just learning how to serve from a place of not just nourishing and giving to others, but making sure that we have a life that nourishes us as well, so that we can give our best gifts, so that we can live in our full power. Those lessons have come from the labor, the pregnancy, the labor, the delivery, the raising the kids, and other experiences I've had along the way. But yeah, it's journey is the word for it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, That's one thing that I really came up with a couple of years ago. It was like, it's not just an empowered birth, it's empowered mom journey. It's an empowered birth journey, even.
Mhm.
Like, even after you've given birth, it's still an empowered birth journey because you're birthing a new version of yourself every single day
Mhm.
with that child. And one thing that our friend and mentor, Annie Lala, had said was that it's like you're a new person every day. So her daughter even was like, today my favorite color is yellow. Today my favorite color is pink. It's
Mhm.
like recognizing you can change your favorite color.
Mhm.
You can change what you like. So
Mhm.
every day now I've started to do a practice where, you know, kids tend to have this things like today I like grilled cheese sandwiches. Yesterday I hated them. And like, you know what I'm talking about. You had four. So it's like, but you like this food. No, today I don't like this food. I'm not going to eat this food that you spent an hour preparing for me because I won't eat anything else. But recognizing our kids change, we change. We're not the same person that we were even 5 minutes ago. Like just getting this information, I now have a new perspective from you on what I'm dealing with this teenage angst with my son because he's usually a sweet kid.
Mhm.
And at the same time, they get moody. And like you'll be sitting there and you'll be like expecting the sweet kid and then they go, "Ah." And it doesn't
Mhm.
matter if they're 2 or 4 or 6 or 8 or 12 or 16. It doesn't matter.
Mhm.
They're going to have that different way of relating. So if you look at everything as a birth journey, even if you're running a business like what Tracy and I are doing, there's hard parts, really hard parts. At the same time, the reward when we finally break through and it's like, I've got a new idea and I'm creating this and I'm
Mhm.
seeing traction in this and I'm helping and I'm impacting lives with this. That in itself is an oxytocin high. Would you agree with that,
Mhm. Oh,
Tracy?
absolutely. Yes.
It is. It's a total
Yeah.
oxytocin high. I mean, then we can get on and just do little chats like this. But even this, there's a lot of stuff on the back end that I'm not sure if you're not doing business, you might not understand this, but I edit these. I have to put them up onto YouTube. Like there's a lot that goes into planning. We do scheduling. It's not just spur of the moment. And when you recognize that there's the underlying planning, you create your safety net, things sometimes happen. I actually had to reschedule this
Mhm.
because we had an original time and then suddenly it's like, hey, school needs me. So I had to change the time. And how true is that? It's like with your kids, you're
Mhm.
like, okay, I'm planning to have my baby on this day. This is going to be nice and perfect. Oh, no, baby doesn't want to come on this day. Baby has decided to do their own thing. And we can't plan ahead for everything.
Mhm.
But if we have more ideas, like this is an option, this is an option, this is
Mhm.
an option, this
Mhm.
is an option. I mean, Tracy, you even kind of tie that into what you do with nourishing body and soul.
Mhm.
It's not one size fits all in your program either. It's like,
Mhm.
this is an option for you. This might work. I don't know, like tune into your body.
Mhm.
And if you hadn't had those four babies and done that parenting journey, would you have the wisdom to really have that impact now?
Uh, no one can say. It's not likely. Knowing
No,
myself, no. However,
no,
we don't know any other path than the path that we've taken. So,
no. I know for a fact with my own as well, because before I had my first baby, I was like, I don't want to have kids. I don't want to get married. I would be a terrible mother. I'm too selfish. I don't like pain. I would probably just get a C-section and a tummy tuck. And now it's like stay at home, work at home mom who loves my kids. I mean, they sometimes drive me crazy, but I wouldn't trade this for anything.
yeah.
Like honestly, I love being a single mom, even though it's hard sometimes. The same time, I got my kids 95% of the time, and I get to be there for them after school, and
Mhm.
I'm there for the tantrums too. But then I get to
Yeah.
work through the tantrums, and I get insights and inspiration when it comes to empowering the moms out there. Like,
Mhm.
you're getting insight, especially
Mhm.
if you're a first time mom. It's not just about the birth. I'm just going to remind you, it's really not.
Yeah.
You're on a journey here.
Yeah.
You're really on a journey. So you've got me as an inspiration. You've got Tracy now. Tracy, this has just been amazing. And I could just keep going.
Mhm.
But, we
We
do
do
have
have
to wrap
time
up
limits.
because I have to go this time.
Uh-huh.
I have this appointment with my kids' school.
Uh-huh.
But
I do
this has
want to
just
say
been
one thing though, Carly, is with your empowering moms birth journey. I love that title because it's, as we've been discussing so much, it's not just about the birth, but if we can take that thought and realize that what we're doing, not just growing and changing as a person with our child, but this, our whole life is a journey to, we are literally experiencing a birthing process within ourselves, and we're birthing ourselves into this place of empowerment, and this whole journey. And I'm in my 60s now, and with all of the various things I've gone through, some very joyful, some very painful, all of the ups and downs that come with life, I have a perspective of the journey that it's been. And it really is that whole, that empowering mom's birth. This is your birth you're talking about too, not just the birth of your child.
Oh, mic drop, Tracy. That is just powerful. We're going to have to soundbite that one too. But this has just been amazing, Tracy. And, I have such reverence for where you have been in your life and the fact that, like, you're doing this in your 60s and you're so vibrant and so powerful. And you've had these beautiful birth experiences, and we really need to have that wisdom.
Mm.
This is why I also say with the mom groups, like, you don't just stay in a due date group. And that's a video that will be coming up in the future very soon. I did touch on it with the 26 things that you need to know if this is your first time planning a true natural birth. So, Empowered Mom, if you haven't watched that video yet, make sure you go check it out in the playlists. And the best way to get the most information on how to have a truly empowered birth journey is to get on the Empowered Birth newsletter, where I also share a little bit of extras when it comes to my Empowered Mom Circle, of which Tracy is a part of. So when she has something coming up, you may hear about it through that newsletter. It's a choose your own adventure. So basically, I come up with a topic, I tell you what else is going on in the community. I give you access to the Empowered Birth Toolkit, which is everything you need to know to plan and get your true natural birth. It's an ever transformative resource. So you just go to empoweringmomsbirth.com/toolkit to learn more about that. When you put your name and email in, you will automatically be taken to a masterclass that gives you the 9 secrets to empowered birth, because I want to make sure that you get an empowered birth, whether you work with me any further or not, whether you purchase my programs, whether you get my book. This is my legacy to you, Empowered Mom. So thank you so much for watching today. Tracy, thank you for coming back and sharing your
Thank you.
beautiful birth stories. This has been absolutely wonderful. And I can't wait to dive into more in the future. If you have anything else that you want to share, you are always welcome back to the Empowered Mom Hour. And
Thanks,
thank
Carly.
you. Yeah, thank you. It was awesome. This has been the Empowered Mom Hour with me and Tracy Astle. And Tracy, before we go, just let people know where they can find you again in case they haven't watched the previous video.
Probably the best place is you can find me at Nourishing Body and Soul on Instagram, or I'm very active there, or at my YouTube channel, where you can find so many videos that are posted there if you're interested in that. My YouTube channel is the Nourishing Body and Soul channel.
nourishing body and soul. So after you finish this video, make sure you go and like, share, and subscribe to Nourishing Body and Soul. I'm telling you, Tracy's videos are amazing. And I have just found so much help when it comes to understanding to keep myself healthy, to keep my weight under control, because, I am 39 now. And I would like to stay healthy. I would like to stay vibrant. And, it's just, we don't want to do that diet culture funhouse. We really don't. It's not fun. It never seemed fun to me. So I would definitely suggest checking out everything that Tracy has on her channels. And if you do by any chance forget, and you're like, hey, Carly, I forget what Tracy's channel is, you can always reach out to me. hello@empoweringmomsbirth.com. I'll put you on track because Tracy and I are buds and we talk a lot. So thank you so much for watching. This has been the Empowered Mom Hour. Make sure you go get that Empowered Birth Toolkit, like, share, and subscribe to this channel. And I will talk to you soon. Bye now.